Last month, I went to an opening at the Brandywine River Museum of Art of Reality Reassembled, the Halloween paintings of Peter Paone. A few weeks later, I visited the artist in his studio. So who is Peter Paone? I asked one of his former students for a brief introduction.
I'm Andrea Packard, and I was a student of Peter's, 1986 on.
For more than 40 years,
Peter Paone has greatly influenced emerging artists in Philadelphia. When I met Peter nearly 30 years ago as a student at the Pennsylvania Academy, I was impressed by his provocative and passionate stances on art. He taught, and still practices, the principle that a work of art should embody both a distinct point of view and an experimental, inventive approach to the medium at hand. He has taught by example that an artist should not specialize in a single medium or style, but engage in a wide range of expression. Most important, his work embodies his belief that powerful art comes to fruition not through the marketplace, but through continual research, disciplined practice, and fidelity to imagination.
These Halloween paintings are clearly the product of a highly imaginative mind. But Peter has a different explanation of how his images came to be.
It's not really imagination. What it is remembered observation. So I see things, I experience things. I've had a very exciting and rich life. I had a lot of interactions with other artists and also life experiences. And I remember them, and in remembering them, I'm able to take them apart and reassemble them so that the image, which not only is a modern image, but has a statement to it. That's the reason for the title of my exhibition at Brandywine, Reality Reassembled. Yes, there's a certain amount of imagination, everything, everybody does. But mine is mainly from the restructuring of observation. To me, a painting is a painting with a figure in it, and the figure has to say something. It always had to say something. I was not interested in the traditional nude in the chair or the seated portrait. There had to be some message.
All right, so for instance, this painting in the middle, how would you describe its meaning?
Well, I think a lot of it reflects the political situation right now. The whole purpose of the painting here is hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. So they're not three monkeys. You know, they're the way we live. So that's the message there, is that it's not just an icon. It's reality, but I'm reassembling it, taking the monkey symbol and turning it into real people. And then, of course, there's always hope, which is the candle.
To what extent is it necessary that all the symbolism and iconography in your art or anybody's art really needs to be understood?
However I see and speak of it won't be seen or spoken of again. Each viewer brings his own interpretation. So the painting lives through the viewer. In many of the Halloween paintings, the witch with the candle on her finger, that the finger is the candle and is lit, that's open to the viewer's interpretation. I have no idea what it means anymore. I did it in the modern idiom because it allowed me to do whatever I want, as opposed to following the manual of traditional realism. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not my life. Mm-hmm. It's not my house. It belongs out there for all those people who see the world that way.
Speaking of Peter's identity as a modernist, I saw a friend at the opening who worked for years at the institution most responsible for bringing that style to Philadelphia. I asked him if Dr. Barnes would have given Peter his seal of approval.
I think Dr. Barnes would have. He studied at the Barnes Foundation.
Is that right?
He has an unbelievably great story. You should ask him about it. It's fantastic.
I guess I was 15 years old in South Philadelphia, and I was going at night to Fleischer Art Memorial. They always talked about the Barnes Foundation. So I found out where it was, and it took me 3 hours from South Philadelphia to get to Marion, because I didn't know what I was doing or where I was going. And when I got to the Barnes, there was this huge iron gate that was locked. And the foundation itself, there was a light. So as a good, healthy 15-year-old from South, I climbed over the gate. And I walked up and I knocked on the door, and Violette DeMasia opened the door, and she was shocked. And I hear you have pictures here, I want to see them. She says, you can't, you have to go away. I said, can I have a glass of water before I go back? And she said, yes, but wait here. And I didn't. I wandered through the galleries. She found me with the water, and we continued to go through the galleries for the next hour and a half. She was intrigued. When I was 14, I read Gombrich's History of Art twice. So she knew my high school teacher, because he was a Barnesian. Through him, I got the message, would I like to study there? I said yes. We remained friends until she died, and I saw her often. I have a real long history with the Barnes Foundation.
Are the models people that you know, or
I never worked from models.
Really?
I haven't had a model in my studio since art school. If you can draw, you can draw. Why do you need a model? I don't go out landscape painting. I don't set up still lifes. I don't ask people to pose for portraits. So it's a very different approach than working from observation.
So the geese in the painting behind you, they're very accurately drawn.
I remember geese. I do use reference when I need it.
Yeah.
But something like geese, I wouldn't, because it's not an unusual thing.
Hi, I'm Emil DeJohn. I've known Peter since probably the art club at John Bartram High School in 1955. We went on to the same college. Oh God, he could draw like no one. I was the star in the fashion world at the school, and Peter was the brilliant artist. His paintings were beyond. In fact, when I designed for Bergdorf Goodman for many years, in the main room at Penn Station in New York, I see this billboard a mile long, and it said, meet Peter Paone at his exhibition at one of the museums. I don't know if it was the Metropolitan, but it was big time. And I thought, dear God, I knew Peter would do it, and he's done it.
It turns out that Peter has shared his friend Emil DeJohn's passion for fashion, going back to when he studied art education at what is now the University of the Arts. He had won a full scholarship to go either to that school or the Pennsylvania Academy. At the time, PAFA seemed too traditional for a budding modernist. He already knew how to paint. He had mastered watercolor in junior high and printmaking in high school. The painting faculty at UArts were then mostly abstract expressionists, and that held no appeal to an artist who wished to tell stories.
So I took art education, which allowed me to write my own curriculum. And in that curriculum, I took every design class that was available to me. Industrial design, interior design, fashion design, graphic design, ceramics, photography, illustration. My main interest was in fashion. I think if my demons and fine art weren't so demanding, I probably would have gone into fashion. And I didn't. But all the paintings that I've been painting since then, all the clothing, whether it's just a traditional seated figure or in the Halloween series, I designed the clothing that they wear. That was my outlet for fashions.
When you say you design the costumes, what, do you mean physically?
No. In the painting, I design costumes rather than doing some research and finding a costume that I think I like. And there are many, many drawings for all of these paintings. And a lot of the costumes evolved out of those drawings. They were almost like fashion drawings.
Oh, man.
For everything I've done, there's a drawing. Some, but not all, end up in paintings. And those that don't end up in paintings are just finished drawings.
What is it about a particular drawing that makes you decide to push it further into painting?
I don't feel I'm finished with it. I feel that what I need to do next, I can't do with a pencil. It needs color, it needs a larger format, and this is an instinctive thing. I just feel like I want to paint this.
And then do you use a gridding system to transfer?
No, I redraw the whole thing all over again. Because when I do a drawing, let's say like these, and then I want to do a 30 by 40, a lot of my negative spaces are too big to scale it up. So by starting to draw it all over again from the very beginning, I can adjust those negative spaces as I go. You wind up sometimes adding more to the figure because you have more space than you would have in the drawing. Also, when I'm drawing, I'm assembling the memory for the first time. When I redraw it to paint, I'm adjusting it. It's very different.
Who would you say have been your greatest influences?
Well, at the age of 83, if you're not walking in your own footsteps, you didn't make it. But there are 4 artists that have always remained close to me. The first was Jan van Eyck. His precision and his color was of major importance to me as a young artist. Picasso taught me to draw. George Braque taught me to paint. And Ben Shahn taught me to think. I move in and out of my series. I'll do something, and then 10 or 12 or 15 years later, I'll repeat it. And this comes out of my Ben Shahn apprentice times. 1958, Sean did a silkscreen of the Sacco Vanzetti image that he became well known for in the late 30s. And I was, I guess, in 58, 20-something. I said to him, Ben, you did this 30 years ago. Why are you doing it again? And he said, it's my image. I can use it any time I want. And that always stuck with me. When I was 19, I visited George Braque in his studio. That's when it dawned on me the importance of paint itself through him. And so I've been working with the idea of what paint can do in its own language ever since then. Paint is the only reality. Everything else is an illusion. You know, you paint an apple, it's an illusion. The only real thing about the apple is the paint that is painted in. And so paint is very important to me.
I am surprised they're all acrylic because you tend to think of acrylic as not having the kind of rich surface that you have created.
I've been working with acrylic since 1970. 1970 was my last oil painting, and I've been developing this for now almost 50 years. These paintings, they're on panel. I don't work on canvas, and I make my own paint. And I make it not because it's cheaper, but I can make colors I can't buy. That's the beauty of it. And I make a lot of it. And then when I run out, I can't make it again. So I make something close, it becomes something else, and it becomes part of another painting.
I'm John Paone, and I'm Peter's brother. He traveled, he won a number of grants and scholarships to go overseas, but we grew up together in 7th Street in South Philadelphia. There was always family and friends around. Peter had his studio in the basement. People came constantly to see the artwork and actually buy paintings when he was a young man. My father loved it, and Peter was known as the artist in the family.
My parents were immigrants. They came from Italy. I'm first generation here. Everybody in the neighborhood had the same background. Like any kid, we were very much into Halloween. The difference is there was no money. So when Halloween came around, we were very inventive. We made our own clothing. You know, we made our own costumes out of whatever we can find. Our sisters' dresses, towels for capes or whatever. And we all accepted it. And it was great. When I was a kid and we got dressed as something else, we really believed we were someone else, whether we were a pirate or a superhero. In terms of my expression, I'm a humanist and I'm a storyteller. So Halloween comes with stories because people really believe it's a day of denial. They deny who they are and they become whoever they want to for 24 hours. And they do it publicly. They're not dressing in their wives' dresses at home. They're out in the street. Whoever they design themselves to be, they do it publicly. And that is a fabulous story of the human condition and what they need to do in order to express the other side of them. The happy side, the dark side, whatever. It's all different with everybody. And so that's what I was exploring. I wasn't exploring the commercial aspect, the Wicked Witch or the Black Cat or the pumpkin that's smiling with a candle in it. Those are interwoven, but the commercial part of it is not my paintings.
And yet, looking around his studio, I sense that the iconography of this holiday has a powerful hold on him.
I have always, since the late 50s, collected Halloween memorabilia. I have about 1,000 pieces or more. They just represent to me that day. Nothing I have is beyond 1930. A lot of these were made in Germany, they were made in America, they were made by toy manufacturers, and that's all part of the depth of the pieces themselves. So it's a very different kind of Halloween memorabilia from 1900 to 1930, before it became commercial. When I buy them, I record them in these books. And the date I bought them, the amount of money I paid for them, and in some cases they were gifts. And I put the initial of the person who gave them to me. And they're fun to do, to have these books. There's 2 volumes of them.
My favorite is the Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay, maybe I'll try one of those. Thank you.
This art's the best work I've seen in here so far.
I'm Rob Evans. I'm a painter and an independent curator, and I've known Peter for many years. His work is just extraordinary on so many levels. Elegant line, prismatic use of color, totally inventive imagination. He's able to put it all together into these just really magnificent works.
My name is Bill Valerio. I'm the director of Woodmere Art Museum. I love Peter Paone as a person and as an artist. He's got an imagination and a creativity that brings you right back to your own childhood, like nobody else that I know.
My name is Matthew Affron. I'm the curator of modern art at the Philadelphia Art Museum. What you're talking about with Peter Paone is an artist who knows exactly how to put together his pictures to make them last. I think that everybody could learn a lot by looking at the way he puts his pictures together.
I know some people who have done exactly that. And in fact, I have made movies about some of them. I asked Peter to talk about teaching.
I never taught my students to paint like me or think like me. My thing was to find themselves. We talked about life and art, but not about schools of thinking, the Renaissance as opposed to the abstract expressionists. They get enough of that in other classes. I wanted them to talk about what they thought art was to them. Carson and Nick Bubash, Oriananos, Doug Martinson, Andrea Packer, they all were very successful.
Yeah.
Because they're themselves.
Yeah.
They're not clones of a school of thinking.
I had a very influential teacher. This guy's been collected from the Louvre to the Museum of Modern Art and whatever. But anyway, he was my drawing teacher at the academy. His name was Peter Paone, and he used to say to us, never left my mind, what do you want to be known as? A painter, a graphic artist, a draftsman, a sculptor, or do you want to be known as an artist? He said, an artist does it all. And I took that to heart.
He was a critic, visiting critic, and he taught a business of art class, which at the time was the first one they had. And I felt very lucky to get to take that class with him.
And
he was very serious about it. It made a huge difference. It was actually really pivotal for me to take that class.
I taught for 50 years. Teaching is a way of paying back. My teachers were very instrumental in my development, and I learned a great deal from my students. What happens with an artist's career is it begins to develop, and it moves in various directions, and it moves with its own generation and its own concepts. And there are new artists and new generations coming in. Some of them in direct contradiction of what you believe in. And I want to know what they're thinking. I want to know what that is about. So if they're young artists and I came before them, I'd like to know what they took from my generation that they're still keeping and what they're replacing.
I just turned 67 and I've talked to so many artists. Most of them can talk, but not very clearly. But you are utterly clear. You speak in complete sentences, paragraphs, and you're 83. How did you manage to keep your marbles so fresh?
I work. I think every day. I'm in the studio from 9 in the morning to 7 at night, 7 days a week. Now, my wife has other plans. So from time to time, we go out and we lunch together or do something like that. But generally, she has a life of her own. She's involved in all kinds of activities. So she's out all day long, and I'm here all day long. So the secret of gracefully growing old as an artist is don't stop, keep going. That's my secret, which I'm sharing with you. Artists don't die of disease, really. They die of exhaustion. And that's how I'm going to die. I'm going to die of exhaustion.
No worries. I saw absolutely no sign of exhaustion as I questioned and filmed Peter hour after hour in his studio. Maybe he's just having too much fun. Remember when Peter said this?
I've had a very exciting and rich life.
In 1965, Peter won a Guggenheim Fellowship and ended up living in London for 3 years, stretching out the fellowship funds by painting and selling his work. He got to know artists like Francis Bacon and became friends with some even more high-profile cultural figures.
In London, I studied the art of miniature painting on ivory at the Royal Academy. These are all on ivory of swinging London in the late 60s.
Oh my gosh.
George Harrison and Ringo Starr of Beatle fame. They posed for those.
For real?
Oh yeah, they were friends of mine. I met them at parties.
Working on this film has been an enormous pleasure. And though I am no Ringo Starr, I am very proud to now call Peter Paone my friend. Brandywine curator Audrey Lewis graciously sent me high-res images of Peter's Halloween paintings. The photographer is Peter Philbin of Brilliant Graphics. In this film, I also shot images from Peter's Woodmere and List Gallery catalogs, as well as swiping Facebook photos. Thank you all. Peter, you've been doing art since you were a kid and you're now 83, and you said you work almost every day. What has art meant in your life personally?
Being an artist is a very special kind of life. It's a very enriching life. And once you are part of it, you don't really want any other kind of existence. At least I didn't. Art isn't an addition to my life. Art is my life. I don't recommend being an artist to anyone because you don't need my recommendation. If you're going to be an artist, you're going to be an artist. no matter what. You're going to have to figure out how it works for you and your time.
Tell me about this painting.